We are going to call a public hearing for ordinance 2023-16. This is an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, appropriating funds for the City of Logansport revolving fund number 406. Do we have any public comments?
What does that pertain to, if you don't mind asking?
It's the revolving loan program for RDC to be able to.
Golf course?
No, this is for appropriating money for funds for RDC to be able to use for their three building projects that they have, or three programs.
Bill, what?
The three building programs that they have: the key building program, the facade program, and I think the sidewalk program. Is it right, Bill? Is that the third? Three.
Yeah, three programs the RDC had, they're going to continue to do. The State Board of Accounts would like for them to appropriate money to you, and as they approve them, then you will fund it. So it'll be their funds appropriated towards a new pot. And once they appropriate facade program or whatever it may be, then you would actually fund it, but it's technically their money. So the appropriation hearing is simply that it's not a line item you have in your budget. So since it's a new item, you have to hold an appropriation hearing. In the Ferris Tribune on May 25th, it was published, and today at 6:20 is the public hearing.
Thank you, Bill.
And that amounts to $205,000 that, again, their funding will be appropriated through you. And it's attached to ordinance 2023-15, which you approved on first reading last month.
Any other public comment? Any council member comment? Anything you'd like to add, Bill?
No? No.
623.
Hang on a second. The only thing I think you need to note is for council, when you read your packet, the numbers have been put into that. So you'll need to do an amendment for that ordinance approving those fund numbers. Because I inserted the fund numbers and the amount for the appropriation, which had previously been left out. So we need to amend the original ordinance to include those amounts. Okay?
At 6:24 p.m., we will call the public hearing to an end.
That's where I go in the summer.
She's working at DNR,
Oh, she is?
and she just got engaged
Oh.
over the weekend.
First one didn't have the numbers.
Right, we didn't have the numbers, we
Gotcha.
didn't have the amounts, so
Right.
they had to come up with the amounts that they needed, and then I inserted them into and I got that last week, so that's the reason why I said it's got to be an amended version. They have the version, just like you got, it's got it in there, but it wasn't in there.
Gotcha.
I think I remember you saying this too.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure it gets done.
Yeah, so you
Yes.
like the whole thing.
You know, if you go on 29, Jason, church sits to the right, if it changes on 218, they don't want to take a turn, it's all to the right.
Yeah,
South,
yeah.
all to the right.
I'll write it here so I don't forget, Dwayne. Yeah.
His mom and dad are still in the same church.
Yeah. Thank you, Dwayne. I assume this dude, you were going home last night about 7 o'clock. I see this dude walking along the wall there. just past Sixth Street between there and the trail. We had to- I swear that catfish, I don't know, carry the street.
Fish out of the river, I don't think there's that many there.
I don't know. I just We'll see. Of course, the river's stinking low. We need rain. Never seen it around this. Yeah, I don't know. June.
Are we doing it?
I hope we can.
I will, I saw your email, I'll let you know that. I haven't had any.
Also, this can never been seen.
So you need three boards sitting on this.
I know way. I know what history was made there. I know what stuff. Especially with, what's his name? Yeah. So then they would sit down there. With him being out, they're going to say, I've got to.
Yeah.
I think so. I think he was their best leader.
I don't know.
In the middle, it might be the best between them, because that one, because that mic will pick up supposedly that table, but it'll definitely get anybody that's in the middle.
So why did they get sent us things? It's been crazy.
I'm pretty good.
By golly, I think that clock is finally working. You know, I think it actually is on the Carl's touching over his tracks. Yeah, he's making sure that clock's
That's gonna take a minute to get to So I wanted to play golf.
Good evening. It is 6:30 p.m. Monday, June 5th, 2023. I'm Mayor Chris Martin calling to order the regular session of the Logansport Common Council. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Amy Densmore,
Present.
Larry Hood,
Present.
Jonathan Nelms,
Present.
Jake Ladon,
Present.
Scott Petey,
Present.
Dave Morris.
Present.
We'll start with the approval of minutes for the May 1st regular session.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
All right, reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
The Finance Committee met on May the 22nd at 6 o'clock. Items of discussion were the appropriation and transfer of funds into the community crossings for South Sycott Street, discussion on Fleece and Vanderbrink's Fast Act 2, the sidewalk project and transferring funds. We talked about the revolving fund amount, which we just had the public hearing for. Erie Avenue transfer of funds from NIPSCO to the community crossings, allocations for water line replacements at the cemetery, and the Chase Davis resolution. Most of those are on tonight's agenda.
Any other reports from committees? All right. Seeing none, we'll start with old business, ordinance 2022-51. Councilman Ladon.
Ordinance 2022-51, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, approving an additional appropriation from the general fund for the payment of IRS penalties and interest. I ask to table ordinance 2022-51.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for a question?
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Jake Ladon.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-51 is tabled. Ordinance 2023-13, Councilman Hood.
Ordinance 2023-13 is an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, pledging financial support for the construction of a new clubhouse at Dykeman Park Municipal Golf Course. Mayor Martin, I'm asking for a second vote on ordinance 2023-13.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Any public comments? Oh, we knew you. Come on up, Paul.
Paul Wilhelm, 630 South 15th Street, Logansport. I don't disagree that we need a new clubhouse at Dykeman. I've looked at the plans for it. I find that it's lacking in certain things that we need for it to be more effective. Mainly the catering facilities are too small. There's no permanent restaurant and/or bar facilities there that would enable the facility to operate year-round and bring in actual revenue for the city. When we look at the Parks Department, we look at the amount of revenue that it brings in versus expenses, we're clearing about $50,000 a year at the end of the year. If the golf course was a business, it'd be bankrupt. Other cities have dealt with how to deal with golf courses, aging golf courses. I know we're in a unique situation with the Dykeman because it was a gift to the city, and there's certain regulations that we have to follow pertinent to how we take care of that property. Other cities have looked at other ways of maintaining a golf course. One of those is a public-private partnership, where the city contracts with a developer to develop the necessary facilities for the golf course, and then the city receives funding at the end of the year over a period of, say, a 20 or 30-year lease from that developer. And other cities have been able to lessen their financial obligation of operating a golf course by going to a public-private partnership. This is something that in this whole process has not even been explored. We apparently conducted a survey of the people who go to Dykeman. The survey that the Parks Department recently did seems to indicate that the actual people we're talking to put the golf course on a very low priority compared to other things in our community. You know, they prefer to have a farmer's market, they prefer to have senior health, facilities. And I know that some of the council people have mentioned the fact that, well, this wasn't a very big survey. How much did we pay for this survey that told us that what we're doing is out of touch with the community? And are we actually outreaching to the community at a level that we know that this is what the community really wants and that they want $1 million financial commitment of taxpayer dollars to pay for this? And I think these are all things we haven't discussed. I think this project, as most have been rushed through, I think there's been little public discussion, and I think that we need to look at other alternatives. And I would urge the council to vote no on this at this time, and maybe put together some resources with the Finance Committee to see if there are other options that you can explore, to see if there are other ways that you could get a much-needed golfing facility and a clubhouse for the people, and be able to do it at a cost that will not be a burden to the taxpayers, but rather potentially be an income-generating possibility for the city. As you know, there's another golf course for sale on the west side of town right now. We don't know what's going to happen there. There are a lot of unknowns that are going on right now that we just don't know about. And I think that if we were to be a little patient, wait a month or two, get more facts and information out there, and actually get more public interest and information to the public about this process, because everyone knows we do need to do something out there. It's an old facility, but the question becomes, what's the best way to do it, and should we not explore other options? Thank you.
Any other public comments? Any other further discussion with council?
I would just say, and I'm not going to debate what Paul has to say, it might be legitimate, but we have an opportunity here. He talks about a public-private partnership. It may not be exactly what you're thinking about. We have an opportunity here. We just created a partnership with the Event Center LLC. I'm excited about that. And this is basically about the same type of opportunity. The percentage of what we would invest in our own golf facility and what the private sector is, it's about a 28% is what we would put in. They would put in 72% to make the agreement that we've come to feasible, which is almost in line with the Event Center. We jump at the opportunity to do 50-50 road projects. I think we should give the committee the opportunity. This doesn't commit the money unless they come up with the private funding. So I don't see any reason. There's been a group that's worked on this for quite some time. Maybe that group can discuss the issues that you've come up with, Paul. But I think it would be in our best interest to move forward with the vote, to vote yes on this, and let them have the opportunity to raise the funds they're requesting. So,
Can I speak?
Sure.
I'm not really here for this issue, but since it's come up.
I don't even see you.
Kerry, I'm indivisible. It's indivisible, not invisible. I've never been accused of being invisible, I guarantee you that.
Stretched out too far.
When all this golf course was going on, when I was on council, there was Dick Dilling and the group were trying to buy it. But I think when you're talking about having a private and public contract or partnership, I think according to the Dyckman Trust, who donated all that land, I don't think you can be, unless you're going to relinquish all, if you're talking about letting them have part of the pie, I think that's, if you have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's part of the Dyckman Trust that donated all the land up there. So if you're going to keep it as the city's entity where, if you don't think golf course is an economic development tool, ask the Japanese and people that came here back in my day. Their number one asset for Logansport and Cass County was the golf course and the trails, and then the natural resources with the water. So those are three pretty big. That clubhouse is ready to fall into the woods. And as far as building a restaurant, to get that money that is supposed to, unless it's changed, the money that's made at the golf course is supposed to stay at the golf course to keep it self-staying, which it has done since we changed that ordinance 15 years ago. But you need to check into that when you're talking about partnerships.
Well, the partnership that I'm talking about, Kerry, is the arrangement that we've made is we're going to dedicate $1 million if the vote passes.
Yes, I understand. I've read.
For them to come up with the other $2.5 million to build the.
Well, I think in there, if I remember, Dean's here. You guys have been collecting money up there for what, 4 or 5 years or something, private funds?
A little bit just for the, through the tournaments and stuff like that.
Right. So, I mean, they're trying, but I'm saying that is an economic development tool. We have one of probably top 10 municipal golf courses in this state. And everybody's kids here grew up there that plays golf, and you cannot play in the state of Indiana, and I've been all over, any cheaper than you can pay at Dykeman with your own cart and everything. It used to be around $1,000, I think, plus $1 watering, but that is an economic tool, and if you're only going to put in $200,000 a year to help fund it, I think that's small potatoes for what that golf course does for the city of Logansport. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
I would just echo what Dave was saying. It does need to have something done out there. The way I see it, we can either put this money in to repair it or put the money in on good faith and see it improved. So I'll be voting yes.
All right, call for question.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Jake Don,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
No.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-13 passes on its second reading. Ordinance 2023-14, Councilwoman Dinsmore.
Ordinance 2023-14, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, organizing, codifying, and establishing rules for regulating the use of vehicle within the City of Logansport and providing for the enforcement of existing rules and regulations and those established in the future, including the assessment of fines and penalties for violations, and the towing and disposal of vehicles as provided for herein. I'd like to move 2023-14 forward for a vote.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-14 passes on its second reading. Ordinance 2023-15, Councilman Morris.
Ordinance 2023-15, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, concerning the establishment and approval of the City of Logansport, Indiana Revolving Fund Program, the initial funding of said program, the making of loans and forgivable loans from said program, the administration of the program by the City of Logansport Redevelopment Commission, other matters connected therewith, and repealing ordinances inconsistent herewith. I make a motion to, first of all, amend this.
Second.
If you remember when we passed this, the blanks weren't filled in, so if you go back and you look at ordinance 2023-15, it has the fund numbers that Dwayne talked about in the public hearing. It has the amount of $205,000 in there to create the balance to start the fund. And otherwise, it's the same verbiage. We just filled in the blanks.
Motion second. Got a second. All right, this is for the amendment for ordinance 2023-15. Call for question.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes?
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jake Ladon.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 2023-15 is amended.
Make a motion to vote on ordinance 2023-15 as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Jake DeDon,
Yes.
Larry Hood.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-15 is passed on its second reading. Ordinance 2023-16, Councilman Petey.
Ordinance 2023-16, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, appropriating funds for the City of Logansport, Indiana revolving fund number 406. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on ordinance 2023-16, please.
Second.
Do we have to amend this one?
Need to
as well?
amend this also.
This one needs to be amended too.
Okay. I make a motion to amend it to include the 205,000.
Second.
That's the number.
Vote on the amendment for ordinance 2023-16. Call for question.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Jake DeDon,
Yes.
Jonathan Elms,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Larry Hood.
Yes.
Got a motion for Petey and Hood for the original reading.
All right, very good. Call for question.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Jake DeDon,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Jonathan Elms.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-16 passes on its second reading. On to new business, Resolution 2023-116. Councilman Nelms?
Resolution 2023-116, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, relating to the proposed annexation of certain property at the request of the City of Logansport Redevelopment Commission. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on Resolution 2023-116.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any public comment?
Kerry Worthington, I probably didn't tell you that earlier, 16 Main Street onward, chairman of the Cass County Indivisible Group. I just want to make sure that the public understands this story without getting in the weeds too much. And what I've been able to tell, the city of Logansport wanted to buy the 58 acres out on the southwest corner of Chase and Davis. While you were in the process, I mean, I don't know what the process anymore has been, this is going on, Ethan Manning, our and your state representative, bought the land out from under you for $521,000 a year ago, with the stipulation that he would sell it after he bought it, as long as he waited a year so he didn't have to pay capital gains tax as much. So I'm trying to figure out, and everyone I've talked to, is how you as a council will let a person, in my opinion, extort $180,000 out for some property that you guys want to get your hands on, that you're not even sure when the return of investment will be. If what I understand is the Yorktown Road project just may start breaking ground this month. So how long is it going to take? 20 years before the citizens of Logansport see the money for that land they're buying, that 58 acres that they're overpaying for? You know, this man is your representative. He's supposed to be looking out for the constituents of this town and fleecing them for $180,000, and you guys going along with it is totally wrong. I've talked to many former councilmen that I served with and didn't serve with, and nobody thinks this is a good idea. Now, if you won't let him sit on that land, according to someone that knows what's going on around here, the only other people that were interested in buying that land was the county. Well, if the county buys it, you kill two birds with one stone. They develop it, you don't have to put the sewers and the lights and everything in it. So you're good there. But I don't think they're that interested. But when he has to start paying property taxes and insurance and worry about farm renting it out, then maybe he'll come down to a decent price. Now, $180,000 on a 520 is about 30% interest. Only two people I ever know that made 30% of their money were asphalt sealers and cocaine dealers, and I've been accused of being both, so I know. But this is not right. If it's not against the law, it's unethical. And if he sits on it and say makes 50 grand a year from now or 5 months from now, I got no problem with him making 10%. That's still a pretty good return on your money. But if you're just going to turn over and give him $180,000 of taxpayers' money, I know it's business tax, I know where the money's coming from and through the RDC, I know it all about it, but it's still money that could be used for other economic development projects. Now, when you say that, who decides what an economic development project is? You guys. You're the ones that decide where that extra $180,000 could go. So, in my opinion, you're not doing the citizens of Logansport and Cass County justice by letting him bully you into buying that land for 180 grand profit in less than a year. Thank you very much.
Gary. Anyone else like to make a comment?
I love you.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the actual need for annexation, because we spent a great deal of time working with the city annexing land. Every time we've ever annexed, it was so we could grow the city. That's been the sales pitch every time. In 1920, the city had its largest population, 21,625 people. We were in 1/3 the size that Logansport is today. We had 21,000 people in 1/3 of the space. What happened? Well, after World War II, we decided we were going to do what every other city did. We were going to build suburbia. And we built track housing for the GIs that were coming back on the west side of town. And if you look in the paper, you can see that the politicians were saying, oh, this is going to be a game changer for the city. We're going to grow the city. We're going to have 35,000, 40,000 people here because all these people are going to come here. They're going to raise their families. People are going to move in Logansport. We're really going to grow. And if you look at the population numbers, you know, they said that we'd reach 35,000 due to expansion. What really happened was the downtown declined. The apartment buildings emptied out that had been basically providing housing for the GIs before that. And then we had East We Go. And East We Go basically doubled the size of the city, but the population stayed the same. You know, the city leaders at the time were talking about the fact that we had to go east because the downtown was old and tired and wore out. And then, in 1968, we opened the mall. City leaders claimed the mall would put us on the map and grow our city to 50,000 people. All during the 1970s, 1980s, we continued to annex land. And here we are today, our population is 18,366. The city is 3 times the size it was in 1920, with 3,200 fewer people today. And we face major challenges with our streets and our sidewalks. We all know the piping issue that we're going to face with that. We have Erie Avenue to consider and how that growth is going to happen. We have a mall that is basically sitting there empty. And now we know there's an EPA issue with the Sears building. We have no idea how much that remediation might cost. And we have no idea the financial ability of the current developer to be able to cover those costs, which means he'll probably come back to the city council asking for more money, as he did last year, for $400,000 out of our COVID money, and then promptly bought the Elks building downtown under another LLC while he claimed to have no money. At some point, we have to start asking real questions. We have to start trusting our own instinct about how our community has shown us that we grow. And where's the growth coming from right now in our community? Our growth is coming from 2 areas. One, the Latino community that's come into our community and are building a life here. This class graduation was this week. In my neighborhood, there were parties all over town. And you talk to the parents of the kids, and they don't speak a lot of English, but they speak it better than they did when they got here. And all their kids are going to college. The question becomes, are they coming back here? And the answer is no, probably not. Because while other cities have done the hard work, places like Wabash, which has invested $73 million in its downtown since the year 2000, like Peru, which is building market rate housing over by the river, and they did that project in less than 2 years, and we are at year 8 of Lexington Village. At some point, we have to put the brakes on doing stupid things. And I hate to use that terminology, but there is absolutely nothing on the horizon that would indicate that anybody wants to develop that land. We could be sitting on it for 5 to 7 or 8 years. We're looking at major infrastructure dollars to actually develop that land to a point where a developer would want to use it. There's another tract of land about a mile away that just came on the market this week for $499,000. So we're going to be competing with the private sector to develop. And the city doesn't know how to develop. That's not our job. Our job is to create an atmosphere that will bring in developers and make them want to spend the money and them want to come to our city and develop. We've got a term paper, and we haven't done our homework. And we keep doing it over and over again. And at some point, you just have to say no. And I know the redevelopment commission is going to say, oh, we spent money on this study, and we spent money on that study, wetland studies, and everything. So we would be spending $1 million by the time you count the cost of all the studies on land that we have absolutely no use for, we have no promise of any use for, we have no long-term development plan, we have no long-range plan for that fringe district up there, and you're being asked to basically annex more land, build it, and they will come. And at some point, we have to cut back. We have to look at where can we spend our money in the community. And we have plenty of places downtown. We have plenty of places in our neighborhood to develop. We have underused parks that we've already agreed that we can sell and redevelop. And it strikes me that we need to concentrate on doing one thing right, and that is to build within our current boundaries and stop this endless cycle of adding more land and adding more cost to the citizens, who, over the next 5 years, are going to have a $66 increase on their water and sewer bills. And for the seniors that live in this neighborhood, in our city, that's going to be a hard thing to hold. How are they going to pay that? So I'd like for you to really think about this, not just from the standpoint that, oh, we have to do this, we've already spent some money on it, but does it make real sense long-term? And can you look at the taxpayers and say, yeah, we need to do this. We know better than you. I mean, ask the people who are struggling to buy a house or pay the rent in this community or don't have sidewalks in front of their street that are decent to drive down or places to go. Ask them what they think about spending money up on Chase Road to build a subdivision to nowhere, because we don't have anything in the pipeline that will give us that. Thank you.
I just have to pick something up. He backhandedly mentioned the $400,000 EPA grant that the city was awarded recently. That has nothing to do with any of the current work being done at the Sears building. It reflects no issues with that development. As the person who submitted that proposal to the EPA, it was supposed to reflect sites scattered around town that currently are not developed that could be considered brownfield sites that could be supported by this grant funding if we received it. And so I hope as that progresses that, if there's a property transfer at any point in the works on that one, they have some of those parceled off, that we can access some of those funds to do that for the development and support that growth there. But there's nothing being held up. There's no issue with the EPA on that building. So that's false information. I saw it floating around, and I'm glad to be able to address that today. As far as the proposal, I just wanted to clear that up for everybody. As far as the proposal to annex the land, very, very much in favor of that. I think the deal that the city is getting, they're being a bit misleading with the wording on it. As you can see from the property that came up for sale recently, we're right in the ballpark on the per acre number on the purchase, and then probably even getting a pretty good deal based on the latest appraisal. And as we've talked, it allows us to kind of direct the growth in a responsible way in that area, get the city into the land, get the land into the city, And then there have been some discussions with the utilities on some partnerships with the state that would help to build out that area at a much lower cost than I think some people may anticipate. So there's a lot of opportunities in the area, and I think it would be a really good thing for the city to do. The Redevelopment Commission does have a long-range plan of how they're building out development within the city, and this falls right within the framework, so I hope you guys will support this. Thank you.
Jacob?
Any other public comments?
Dave Kitchell, 1423 North Street. I would say a few things. I think, first of all, you got to back away for a second from the idea of who's purchasing the land, who owns the land, and annexation. There's two separate issues there. And regardless if Ethan Manning develops it or Ron DeSantis comes up here and puts up the next Disneyland, we need to annex that property. And the situation with annexation in this city and growth has to do with changing in 1994. The legislature changed the law to make it very restrictive to annex anything. And this is one of the few situations where you've got a super annexation, where you can do it. If you own the property, you can turn around an annexation and pull it into the city. And honestly, that's one thing, as a city, we've probably been atrophied more of. We haven't done enough annexation in areas where we can. And a lot of areas we can't because people don't want it. And we tried to annex Westgate Drive. We told them, not Westgate Drive, but Chieftain Road. Those people did not want it, even though their utility rates would have gone down and would go down lower. They would have saved money to be annexed. Well, they didn't want to be annexed. They didn't trust the city. They didn't want the fire protection. And then Dykeman lost his home out in a fire. It wasn't there. I think what we also have to think about here is this. The utilities make money from customers. And if they don't have customers, they can't make money. And we've got a lot of people outside the city of Logansport. Marlton Hills is a prime example where they don't pay utilities to the city except for electric. Water and sewer pays it. And I know we've got increases coming, but unless we build out the system and share the cost, we're going to be stuck with this for a long time. Now, I'm going to say one thing here that probably Kelly Lehman and I are the only people in the room that will understand this, but there was a time for several decades that we sat here and we said, before we're going to annex anything, what is the payback? What is the payback? What are we putting out, and how long is it going to take to get it back? Am I wrong, Kelly, about that? Yeah. And you guys are the fiscal purse strings of the community. You've got to decide, how are we going to make money? How are we going to expand our tax base and protect it? And I get that we can't annex everything, and Kokomo certainly did when Greg Goodnight took office. Look at what they've got now. They've got a lot of good things going on over there that they didn't have before, and they've expanded their tax base to do it. So I get the whole Ethan Manning thing. I get the profiteering. I get the market value thing that Dave said earlier about this. And I get that there's other property available nearby. But if we're going to grow the city, we're going to have to hit housing at all levels. And we're going to have to hit it in every area where we can super annex and go that way. So that's what I've got to say. I know it's a tough decision. It's not an easy one. I know you've got earfuls of things to hear about, but this isn't the only area where we've got to look at annexation. We've got to look at a heck of a lot more. And people look at the south side where the Unger addition is. Why don't we do that? Well, first of all, we don't have the bordering, the contiguous area to be able to do that. And unless we annex more out there, we'll never be able to do that either. But there's areas like that, and people want those services, but we can't get them, those services. That's what I got to say.
I appreciate the comments and the passion. I mean, it's good to have people here, and usually we have a room that's empty, and this is our 10th public hearing on this, not hearing, public meeting on this annexation and potentially buying Chase and Davis, and this is the first that we've had anybody here. A couple of things were not said properly, so I just want to kind of mention what did happen. The property was for sale in 2021. It was owned by a trust that had 7 families, 7 different branches of families. It was listed with Galloway, Murray, and Sheets. We acted as fast as we could Took us about 2 weeks from start to finish, going through the proper channels of city council and such. And November 1st, 2021, you guys voted 7-0 in favor to buy it for $650,000. We submitted an offer, we were second. It's just what it is. So when you, in real estate, you have a first and a second, it's not about who has the highest offer, it's about when they come in and they're accepted. Worley mentioned 520, he's right, it's $520-some thousand is what they accepted, even though our offer was out there for $650. Once it happened, time went by, we reached out to Ethan Manning. Ethan Manning did not reach out to us. And when I say we, it's myself. We have a group put together of city priorities. There's a couple council members and RDC members and LMU superintendent. Mercedes Brew was on there. We had 10 people. And the RDC group still wanted this property. So we reached out to Ethan Manning. RDC approved that RDC could negotiate and reach out to him. They reached out to him. At the end of the day, $700,000 was agreed upon. I tried to take my emotion out of it. My first thought was, this doesn't look right, doesn't sound right, doesn't feel right, doesn't pass the sniff test. But it's a capitalism world, United States is, and if the guy wants to make some money, I'm not going to. We want the property. We made an offer. We did make a lower offer. It was rejected. We landed on $700,000. When government buys a piece of property, you have a lot of things you got to go through because you can't pay more than market value. So we got 2 appraisals. We went through all the hoops. We got a site analysis done, as Mr. Wilhelm mentioned. We spent some money. The appraisal came in at $752,000. So when it came in at $752,000, the resolution in front of you is not to approve the purchase. It's not to pay for it. RDC wants to do that. The resolution in front of you is, will you support the voluntary annexation that would happen after the purchase? Mr. Kitchell alluded to why annexation is important. I agree 100%. Most of our higher paying tax dollars that come into your tax dollars, if you look around, there are houses that are not, they're on the fringe areas of Logansport, and none of it's in Logansport territory. It's almost impossible to annex right now. I'm not proposing we annex anything else. It takes a 60% approval of residents to show up and want annexed. That's just not realistic in today's world. If we buy this property, we're the only owner of the property, so there's 100% support for it, and they can move forward with annexation, get control of the land. Anything that goes out there will now become city property, where it's city taxes that come back to you to redevelop things. So, with it being a $752,000 appraisal, we've gone through all these appropriations and site analysis and wetland studies and geotech work. Everything came back that this land is perfect to build on, so we shouldn't hit any surprises. There's a wetland area where the trees are, so you can't build in that. But other than that, RDC supports this. They're willing to pay for it. On 5/24, RDC had their final meeting, which is about their 7th meeting, and they approved the expenditure to pay $700,000 contingent upon, if this resolution is passed tonight, that you support the annexation afterwards. So that's where we're at. Like I said, I tried to take my political goggles off and my emotion off, and I look at it as a guy's making some money, but have any of us bought real estate and didn't make money when we turn around and sell it? So 99% of the time you do. It goes up in value. There's actually 5 more acres there when we got the survey than we thought. There are 59 acres. Originally there was 54 acres according to the plat book. It appraised for $16,000 an acre. That's how they got to the $752,000. So, my opinion is we need it, but I'll respect any vote that you have.
You can come. Go ahead, Carrie.
Well, I had one question, Bill, if that's all right.
Can I rebut that? Oh,
Yeah, the question.
wake me up.
Yeah, so based on what they were saying, do we have a long-term plan for that area if annexed? That's already been thought out, we're not just annexing property just to annex property.
Redevelopment, that's what they do. Redevelopment commissions are their number one job, priority, state code is to redevelop land. It's deemed it's great for housing. The exact dollar right now, no, I don't have that. But the initial plat, you can probably get 15 to 20 homes out there, larger lots. To have the exact analysis done for you now, but that's the plan for redevelopment commission is to redevelop it into housing. It's currently zoned fringe residential, so it does support it. So that's the plan.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Carrie.
Gary Worthington. A couple of points I want to make on what Mr. Cuppy just said. First of all, if you tell anybody in Logansport that $180,000, I don't know what planet you live on, but that ain't just a little bit of money. That's a lot of money. More than 95% of the people in this town make. So that, for one thing, is not true, is not feasible to me. And the other thing is, again, return. What is the return? There's no plan of return. And who came up with this? How many people appraised the $750,000 appraisal? Was it one person? Was it Ethan Manning's little deal he's got going over in Miami County? Who was it? Usually, I know when we did it, when I was on council, we had 3 bids or 3 appraisals, and we took the center one. Now, if this only appraisal was one appraisal of $750,000, that don't seem like it's, if you talk about the smell test, this whole thing doesn't pass the smell test. If I guarantee you, if one of you 3 or you 6 or anybody up there would have known, and you're not going to tell me he didn't know about this deal, I guarantee you he knew about it. If you guys went out and bought that land out from under the city and then tried to sell it back to them for $180,000 profit and told them you weren't going to pay capital gains, so I wasn't selling for a year, you would never win another seat in this town or another election. I know it for a fact because I'd be the one out there to make sure you didn't. So, thank you.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
Mike Ayers, 3473 South County Road, 50 East Logansport. In listening to the discussion about annexation and what we do with it, okay, are we just going to build homes? Are we going to build industrial or potential factories? What's the plan? We have an industrial park. As a matter of fact, we have 2. We have one that sits right across from my house. We have an agribusiness park that's off of the new Heartland. Why not develop those areas with industry? If you want to put housing up there, if you want to put, I don't know, maybe a soccer field or more. That might draw some interest from all walks of life. It might be within your interest to look at not annexing, but building the soccer fields somewhere within the city so that everyone could enjoy those things. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Councilman, comment?
I know it's a hot topic, but this is a prime opportunity to grow Logansport, and I know for a fact there plenty of people with, they come to Logansport for a job and they live out of town because they don't find housing that they like. And that, I know from word of mouth that, you know, if we would get this property, there would be people interested in building homes in that area, so.
Any other council member comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. Call for question.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
No.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
No.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Larry Hood.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-116 passes. Resolution 2023-117, Councilman Morris.
Resolution 2023-117, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, appropriating $46,000 from the non-reverting cemetery perpetual fund for the repair and replacement of water lines within the Mount Hope Cemetery. I'd move this forward for a vote.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Jake Ladon.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-117 passes. Resolution 2023-118, Councilman Petey.
Resolution 2023-118, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, approving the disbursement of $111,642.77 NIPSCO settlement payment for completion of the Erie Avenue project. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on Resolution 2023-118, please.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Larry Hood.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-118 passes. Ordinance 2023-17, Councilman Ladon.
Ordinance 2023-17, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, appropriating an additional $675,000 from the Restricted Motor Vehicle, MVH Fund number 203-2203 for the Community Crossings Matching Grant Fund 283-2410 for the completion of the South Sycott Street paving project. I ask for a vote on ordinance 2023-17.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jake Ladon.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-17 passes on its first reading. Any public comments? Anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for us, please. Come on up, BJ.
BJ Cox, 210 Grove Street. Nothing was brought up during this good discussion, but I just wanted to ask what's going on with Spencer Park. How long will the lower pavilion be down? Is there any budget set to rebuild it or fix it? And just sitting there empty with fence around it was useless to everybody.
Jam.
Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, BJ.
Well, we had to, since the park board closed it, we went ahead and put a fence around it to keep it closed for people getting inside it. We do have picnic tables outside. You can use those, and that's going to have to do for the moment. We are working with KJG to write an RFQ to get, to find out a company that we want to work with to, I don't know, put together is the historic preservation part of it, to see what it is, whether it's the actual historic value of it, and whether it's something to maintain or not. The Parks Board is going to work with that company. I mean, after the RFQ, you get the company to help us to write an RFP and a design plan and things like that about what we want to do. So it's a process, and we're working on it. So I hope to have something at the Park Board meeting on the 14th for them to see in terms of the RFQ and get that out. And that might be a 6-week process, and then it takes another probably month or two to see, to go through interviews and talk to different companies about what it takes to do that. And it's a process. It's not going to be open this summer, I'm sure. So it's going to take a while before we get that done. So, but again, the Park Board has not made a decision about whether to preserve or to not preserve. So we'll see how that goes. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update, Jan. Any other public comments? All right, please come to the microphone. State your name and address for us, please.
Michelle Hines, 6981 North, Shawnee Road, 1050 East. I live in Farmville, but I work for Cass County Transit. And I'm here for the animals. Basically, they run all over. I call animal control. He cannot do anything because Pets R Us can't take them. So I think that Logan Sport needs to figure this out, and either, people pay tons in taxes. We need to figure out a humane society for animals. So, I don't know. I mean, is there any, I don't understand how she refuses. So the Pets R Us evidently is not owned by Logan Sport. So why don't we have a humane society? There's animals tied to trees for 24/7, 7 days a week, no water, out in the heat, below zero, and I'm tired of seeing it, and Logan Sport needs to change.
We're in the process of getting a rules committee meeting going with animal control, Pets R Us, and we'll see if we can't work this out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame animal control because he has nowhere to take them because she refuses them.
That's where we need to discuss.
Yeah, I don't understand how
Because
that
up there
can
with
keep
the
going on. It's been going on for over years.
Yeah, we need to work something out. We need to keep meeting. There's been meetings before, they didn't seem to pan out anything. We're still going to try.
Okay, I appreciate it, and I'll keep in touch, and I'll keep fighting until something gets done. Thank you.
Thank you for your concern.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Well,
Just want to state, I've been in this position a while, and one thing I'm learning is the more progress, progress is painful. There's a lot of passion right now, and there's things going on, and we don't always agree. That's where, difference of opinions, and I respect all of that. One thing I do know is if we had nothing going on, we would all be in agreement and complaining that nothing was going on. So there's so much going on right now, and I appreciate your support. Sometimes you support it, sometimes you don't. I always want to know the no votes. We'll get behind the scenes. I'll find out why and what we can do to change that. But again, thank you. The public's got some passion behind what's going on. It's just good to hear, good times for it, and thank you for your support tonight.
Thanks, Bill.
any other public comments? All right, council member comments.
I can start here. We're going to have a special council meeting on June the 26th. It's that time of year again where we do the annual review on the abatements we give to all our manufacturers. Bill's still trying to collect all the different ones from the companies. They have to be passed by the end of June to fit into the tax schedule and the state scheduling. So we'll have a special meeting on the 26th. Bill's hope is that he'll have those to you by sometime next week, Bill?
Monday.
Okay. So we'll have a finance meeting at 6 o'clock to discuss the abatements. We'll also have a public hearing that day for the appropriation for the South Sycott Street money. And I believe that's all we've got at this time. But probably be a couple other items on the finance agenda that day. But the reason for the special council meeting is that we do have to pass it before the end of the month. So we'll get that scheduled. And the other thing I would just say is that I tend to agree with Bill in the respect that I don't know that, I'm not sure we've ever made a decision that everybody was happy about. There's always a detractor of some sort on any decision that we make. They're all seemingly harder than you expect when you start out looking at something. But I just say this, I've lived on the north side since no longer than that. I grew up on Michigan Avenue. I live down below Charbette's now. And I've seen a lot of good growth on the north side. It's not been like other areas. And I was probably one of the first ones to say, hey, what about this property when it came up for sale? Because living out there selfishly, I thought I can envision a lot of things out here I really wouldn't like. And it really is an ideal location for housing. It's easy access to the east end. It's easy access in and out of town. Got a brand new school there that would probably entice some people to want to build in that area as far as a home would be. You listen to the hospital, their qualified staff is always looking for housing. The schools are always looking for housing. Their turnover rates are high because people don't find housing. Is it going to happen overnight? No. Do we have to be in a hurry? No. But we will have the land as a city, and we will be able to do with it as we see fit, and hopefully it will develop into something real nice. Butts up to Houston Park. One of the fellas that I think is gone now mentioned soccer fields. If he walks next door, he's going to see soccer fields. They're already there. So it's a hard decision. I know it'll make some people unhappy, but I think we're in a position right now, just like a couple administrations ago, they were in a position to buy the land out by the mall. And yeah, it's taken a few years, but it is going to be developed. And like Bill said, there's a lot of good things happening, and I just enjoy the fact that I'm a part of it.
Any other council member comments? Okay. Miscellaneous business and any matters not already considered, including ADA Section 504 compliance or concerns.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call for questions.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Larry Hood,
Yes.
Jake Don,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Scott Beatty,
Yes.
Jonathan Mills.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Have a great night.